Computer. Hello, I'm so happy to have you back on Rendering Unconscious. It's been a minute.
Yes, it has been. I'm glad to be back, and I'm sorry it's been so long, but we are here and we are alive and kicking.
Yeah, that's good. That is all
Yes,
that matters, really.
yes.
What have you been up to? You've been up to so much and your life has changed so much.
Yeah, because I think the last time that we spoke, I was still working at the art museum. So I'll give a very fast recap. So I was working at the museum from 2010 up until September of 2020. When COVID hit, everybody was in flux, and my particular workplace was also in flux, trying to make some decisions. And in the process, I personally decided to exit out of that position and seek something new and something different. So I ended up applying to one of the hospitals in the area, and I ended up getting that particular position. And once I got in that position, I realized that maybe healthcare is where I need to be at this particular moment in time. So started digging in, doing some research, and discovered that there was a lot of potential for me here. And so I ended up working in the pulmonary department of that particular hospital as an equipment technician. So basically, what that is I'm the person responsible for uh, maintaining all of the respiratory equipment stockpile areas around that campus, and making sure when they're done with the ventilators, I wipe them down, set them back up with their circuits and whatnot, and bag them up, put them where they're supposed to be so that they can go back into circulation again. Um, Other random odds and ends things from that the supervisors might hand down, all that kind of stuff. So I've been doing that since late October of 2020, and I'm still here now. Now, when I got that job, I didn't know how the work structure of healthcare functioned. So that was a little bit brand new, and it took me a little bit of time to uh, to really settle in and figure out how that worked. So what happened was I started working in that position late October of 2020, but I knew that I needed to find another job because I was only getting um, 24 hours per week, 48 hours per pay period. So that in itself was not going to cut the rent. So I was looking for other nearby jobs that wouldn't have me commuting all across the town, because I've been by bus for the past God knows how long. So I ended up finding a job in the main cafeteria, basically as a utility person, wiping down all the cooking equipment and um, sweeping floors, that kind of stuff. So that started in December of 2020. Now, when they put me on that schedule, they put me on for all of the days that I was not working my respiratory gig. So in all of December, I ended up working 27 days straight.
Wow.
And that was just the physical feeling of what that felt like was crazy. I hadn't felt anything like that. And it really wasn't until the end of that month that I was really started like feeling the fatigue. And I don't know if it was just my cook manager sort of being, an asshole about it, or just like literally filling me in because they really needed the help. Because he was never, uh, you know, an asshole to me directly. He seemed fairly cool. But nonetheless, I ended up working 27 days straight. And then thereafter, between the end of December and we'll say Memorial Day of 2021, my schedule was more or less between that job and the respiratory gig, uh, 2 to 3 weeks straight, maybe a day or two break. So that was like a 6 month stint of um, super intensity,
And this
work.
is all during the height of COVID too.
Yeah, yeah. So
Really intense.
Yeah, and it was really working between those two jobs that I realized that how important footwear was.
Yes.
Because when I was working at the library, I mean, I just sort of wore what I wore, and even though at that job I was doing a lot of commuting between the main desk and all of the different stack areas, which were in different buildings, that really wasn't something I gave thought to. And so at the respiratory gig, I was more or less doing the same thing, commuting between different buildings and coming back to the main department. But for some reason, it really just felt different. And there was a long period, more than a couple months where, after each shift, when I got home, I had to come home and stretch because that's how much it was sort of taking a toll on me physically. Um, so summer of 2021, I leave the cooking gig, the utility gig, and I start community college. So that right there is actually a big move because that bridges the end of my undergrad career from May of '08 of 2008 to that point. Now, between that gap, there's still something that's being resolved, which is um, my transcript. So that's the transcript issue that I'm about to discuss is the main reason for that gap in the first place. So when you owe money to a college, and some folks may already have some experience with this or have heard about it. If you owe money to a college or university, many of them do have the ability to withhold your transcript from being processed externally. So, shortly after I graduated, the job that I had, I wasn't able to keep up with the payments, and so I wasn't able to get access to my transcript to have it sent out anywhere. So, but when I enlisted to community college, they were able to bypass that and just allow me to start because that's basically more or less ground zero. So, and I wish that was something that had been on my radar, even back during those years, because coming out of high school and going straight to a 4-year community college was not something that was on my radar, and nobody really around me discussed that. Now, having said that, I did take a year, 2 semesters of Japanese during my high school uh, at Tri-C, which is the school that I went to here in Northeast Ohio, at the Eastern campus. But even when I was doing that, it didn't connect to me that this is a junior college, this is community college, this is a different mode or link to between high school and your 4 years. So I didn't make that connection. I was like, okay, I'm here, I'm taking a class, I'm taking Japanese, and I'm out. So
I didn't know that colleges could do that, withhold your transcript. So if you had wanted to get like a master's or something and you needed your undergrad transcript, they could hold it and prevent you from being able to apply to your next level education. That's what
correct,
they've done, basically.
correct.
That's
Now
so messed up.
it is, but to a certain extent, I do understand the business aspect of it because I mean, if you do owe monies or somebody owes you monies, then and you don't fulfill or pay back on your end, then you know that is money owed, and you should rightfully pay it back. But I'm just saying, I'm partially empathizing on the business end, but on the personal end, yeah, it definitely sucked.
We should want
But
people to be able to get the education if they want to do the work to get
Th-
it.
this is true. This is true, and there are systems, around the world that do have functional structures within their governmental um, systems
Yeah.
to be able to do that. But here in
But
the
the
States,
US is not one of them. So
it's
this
a
is
different
another
story.
way that you can get fucked, everyone. Just so you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Oh,
That's what we're
totally.
here on Rendering Unconscious to do, show people all the different ways you can get fucked by the
Absolutely.
systems.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
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 be
we
aware.
yeah, definitely be aware and if possible, have a plan for paying your loans and allocate budget correctly and all that kind of stuff,
I
if
think I must
possible.
not have known that. Yeah, but sometimes those loans, I mean, they're known to be super predatory and have like super high interest rates, and it's almost impossible for a lot of people to pay them back. Like I still owe tons for my graduate school degree, but I guess I didn't know that that could happen because I didn't pay for undergrad because I did go to community college, and it's like if you had like a certain GPA in Florida, then your community college was like taken care of. It's like something called like
Ah,
Florida Scholars Fund or something. So
okay.
like I got this little like scholarship like if I went in state, then my undergrad was taken care of um for community college and then for the 4-year university that I went to for the end of my bachelor's.
Yeah. Well, actually, just a side note, I'm seeing a lot more high school kids being able to take college courses while they're in high school, even to the point I've seen some, very exceptional students be able to get their whole degree either by the end of their high school career or shortly thereafter.
Oh
So
wow.
um, it's becoming, I think, much more of a common thing. And I wish, again, had that been on the radar of those who were around me or just the information been communicated to myself, I would have taken advantage of that
Yeah, that's great.
because that's insane to have your whole college career, well, undergrad college career finished, just a year or two,
Yeah,
a
by
year
the
or
time
two
you're
out.
like 19 or 20,
Yeah. But
that
that
would be
also does,
amazing.
um, make it slightly awkward for your transition to the into the workplace because now you're younger and most of the other folks in those environments are going to be older. So there's a maturity that may have to be made up for in that interim that you can't really speed up. So, but but that what it is. So now since the end of May of 2021, started community college. And my initial pathway was to pursue respiratory care. So your respiratory therapist in the hospital is going to be the person who they do a whole range of things. So, on the patient floors, they might be the ones who come give you a nebulizer or inhaler, um, all things respiratory that you would deal with as a patient. They would likely be the one that you see, apart from the pulmonologist physician who may also see you. Um, so when I was doing some research and after talking to folks in my department, I decided that that was the way that I wanted to go. But in conjunction with that, I also wanted to get a lot of other courses also taken care of because at that particular point, I wasn't sure what else I wanted definitively around the respiratory aspect of things. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to, go back and get a second bachelor's or just move on to the master's and that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to make sure that all of my bases were covered. So I started taking all of the non-respiratory courses in the program ahead of time. So basically, at the time that I would start the program, which would be fall of 2022, between summer of 2020 and summer of 2021, everything that was non-respiratory, so your microbiology, um, all of your English, um, all that stuff, none of that will be left. So when I started the respiratory program, which is a cohort program because it's a healthcare program, um, I would just have the respiratory courses. Now, that would not necessarily be the case because I ended up adding more things into the mix.
Of
But
course you did.
yeah,
Because you're you.
yeah, yeah. Um, but I ended up, getting into the program and starting. So the fall of 2020, fall of 2022. That was interesting. Being in a healthcare program, trying to figure out, what to expect from my professor, uh, how do they administer their tests, and how much material was I going to be inundated with to have to regurgitate on these tests and all that kind of stuff. So that was interesting. Ended up catching two B's out of that. Moved into the
That
spring.
means all A's and two B's.
So I ended up having two respiratory two respiratory courses that fall, and I think maybe something else. I don't have my transcript in front of me, but so up until that point, up until I started the program, everything was all A's, so a 4.0. And then I caught those two B's, and I was kind of disappointed in myself. Not because, well, that'd be a whole different discussion about speaking about grades and what A's actually mean and all that kind of stuff. But we'll just say for the time being, I didn't expect to catch those B's, and I did make some blunders throughout the semester that retrospectively I was like, man, I wish I could have I could have fixed that easily just by doing, X, Y, and Z. So I
But
said,
that's how we
okay,
learn.
that's
And
how
you're
we
still
learn.
wearing the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society t-shirt, so I think you're doing okay.
Yes, yes, yes. Thankfully, that was something that also happened along the way. I got inducted into that at the fall of 2021, I believe. No, no. Yeah, yeah, fall 2021. Um, so yeah, I caught those two B's in the fall. So I said in the spring I was going to do better. Ended up having three respiratory courses and an additional course because I ended up getting into another Tri-C student program, academic program. So I was taking the three respiratory courses and the one humanities course, and I ended up catching A's in everything except for one of the respiratory courses. And so I was like, okay, that's cool. Um, so finished that semester and then started the summer semester. And at the beginning of the summer semester, that would have been, so this was a 5 semester program altogether. The summer semester, so summer of 2023, would have been the semester that we start clinicals and that we start sort of learning more of the high end stuff. So learning how to the preparatory stage for learning how to use a ventilator and things related to intubation and that kind of stuff. So I started the semester off. First 2 days we had an introductory class period where we met with a lot of the different practitioners from some of the nearby hospitals. They came and kind of gave us a refresher on certain things. And then we had our first 2 days of clinicals. And it was between those first couple of days that I looked back at the syllabus that we were going to be working with for the most intense respiratory course that semester. And for myself, I had some concerns in terms of how much was being crammed in there. So the academic, um, we'll just say cramming for that semester. And ultimately, I decided that I didn't want to risk getting any more B's on top of the couple that I had incurred over the last 2 semesters. Because again, thinking about the longitudinal aspect of things, I wasn't quite sure where and how I wanted to do things beyond the respiratory degree. So I ended up pulling out of the respiratory program over the summer and just dovetailing straight into a biology and psychology focused degree with the intent of being pre-med. So that's basically the path that I'm on now. And we're doing everything to work towards that. It would be a whole other discussion to talk about all the different things that have happened, like even just this past semester, all of the different leadership obligations and opportunities to be in certain spaces with certain people. People like the president of Tri-C at a gala banquet dinner, being in a leadership cohort with the Cleveland Leadership Center, the Advanced Leadership Institute, which has been a whole sort of eye-opening experience for what leadership is in Northeast Ohio, in Cleveland, all of the different people that are out there, CEOs, people in local government positions, independent institutions, all of these people who are trying to make an active change in the community, and like they're out there doing it. Um, this this experience, which is still going on, will graduate May at the end of May of next year. Um, and like already, it's been very, very, very informative. I've had the chance to talk to some of these individuals about what they do, and yeah, it's just been an amazing experience. And that's just like, sort of the tip of the iceberg of some of the things that have been happening, um, even just this past semester. So it's been insane. It's been
It's like,
insane.
yeah, quite a journey. But I'm sure you're such a wonderful healthcare worker and you're gonna make an amazing doctor.
So we'll see. We're shooting to take the MCAT by the summer of 2025. So in between now and then, there's a lot of prep that needs to happen, but we're doing our due diligence to make it to make it work.
You sure study a lot, that's for sure. I'm
Man,
glad that you made the time to come and chat with me during your holiday break.
no, it was long overdue, and I deeply apologize for that. It's just,
No way. Like
stuff
I
just
told you before we were recording, I wanted to talk with you last holiday break, last winter, but I thought, no, just let him rest on his break. Don't ask him to do something, Vanessa. But then this one came around. I'm like, okay, I didn't ask last year, but I'm asking this year. But you also have had so many things come out this year that we have to talk about. You've had like all these different essays published and different books, and you have your own book coming out. So where should we start with that?
Oh man. Well, we can start with your publication,
The
um,
Bergman.
the Bergman. So that essay that developed, I think 2019 is when I started my portion for that. Um, even when I think about 2019, that sounds so distant ago, because I was like right
It
before the
was.
pandemic, and um, even just
Pre-COVID. It's a
yeah.
different world.
Absolutely. Like even my personal mind frame was in a totally different place. So, when it was released and I had a chance to see it in print and go back and read it, um, it was interesting. It was interesting because I mean, to be honest, between 2014 and now, it's almost 2024. So this will have been 10 years of me because I stopped doing everything fine arts wise in 2014, and then that was when I picked up philosophy and psychoanalysis and just trying to read and understand. And so, come next year, it'll have been 10 years of me sort of engaging that in that way. So it was interesting reading where my mind was and understanding where how far I had come from to get to that point. And that was I thought that was pretty incredible. Very proud of myself.
It's
Um,
a great piece on the Seventh Seal and the Frenchman.
yeah, yeah. To be honest, I can't remember exactly what I wrote about, but
They have to read the book.
nonetheless, go out, read the book.
French philosophy and Bergman's The Seventh Seal. That's all they need to know. Get the
Yes, yes.
book.
Yes, yes. Advocate to have the book in your local library and county
Yes.
library if possible. That's always a good thing. We're moving into the AI age. Librarians are prospectively maybe taking on a different role in what they do. So if we want to preserve what libraries are and what they mean for knowledge, then we definitely want to keep advocating to have material um, in in the possession of libraries so that they can keep doing what they're doing. So um, if possible, always advocate for your library to get your publication in their hands.
Absolutely. Libraries are so important. Carl and I were just talking about this, I think it was yesterday, the other day, that like how important books are, especially as the internet takes over everything and like
Yeah.
so much disinformation is online. It's like I'm getting like more attached to books than I already was. And we were joking like we're gonna be when we're like older, we're gonna be like little old people like, you're not taking our books from us.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It really is changing because, I mean, we're having conversations now about, and some students have taken advantage of using AI to complete assignments and this kind of thing. And so I was at an event. We have an institution called the City Club of Cleveland, which is basically one of the oldest institutions in the country, I believe, where it's basically a public forum and different speakers will come up and talk about different issues. But the the importance of that is basically having civil public debate uh, located in a centralized space where all different parties are able to sit down with one another and really talk an issue out, ask questions without it being disorganized or disrespectful. Um, that space was something that I came to know about as a result of my academics, and I'm still going to and actively trying to um, find out about what they do, uh, just as a constituent, because what that space represents, particularly today, is very important. So, but I brought that up because there was a speaker who came in, two speakers who came, one from Tri-C, who spoke about this very issue, about what AI means in the educational sphere. And, to have a student who uses AI to assist in a writing assignment, and the professor maybe knows that the way the structure is constructed, that this student didn't do it on their own, but how do you engage them henceforth from that? If you want that to be a teaching moment, to not just, slap the hand and say, don't use AI, but how do you use AI properly? And what does it mean for you to create original work in this environment where you can just create all different types of things without much effort? So that was an interesting conversation. But yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what's the end goal here? Are you just trying to like, pass and get a grade and not learn anything? Or are you trying to like improve yourself so that you do well? But I guess if you can do that forever, then you can have a job and just be having AI do your job on the down low.
this is
So
true.
I
This
don't
is true.
know.
Yeah, education
At
is
some way it's gonna catch up with you though, I'm assuming.
it will definitely.
Mm.
But education overall, just in general is changing. And so we have to keep up with these things. We have to have conversations about technology. We have to, I even keep seeing reports about, there was a report that came out some time ago, relatively recently, in the past couple of months, talking about employers having some kind of preference for tradesmen and tradespeople, because I'm presuming because of maybe work ethic, because the the students that they've been receiving from four-year universities has not been, I guess, up to par. So now they feel that tradespeople have a better work ethic and they're staying on task and doing what needs to be done, and is a better representative of formal education alternatives.
Mm.
So, there's a conversation out there for, what does that mean? What is the value of the four-year degree? And that in itself is already, been out there, but now maybe it's becoming more prescient because there's varying statistics out there on um, matriculation rates through higher education post-COVID. I know that a lot of institutions are struggling. So even the institution that I'm at, there's been some drop off rates um, in presence even on campus, trying to being in some co-curricular activities, trying to get people to come on campus to attend certain events has really been challenging. And so these are the kinds of things that educational facilities are dealing with and may continue to deal with um, for the near future. So
Absolutely. Yeah, now living in Sweden's been interesting to see so many different cultural differences. Like here, like it's like not expected that you go to university after high school. They
Mm,
actually, their like mandatory schooling actually ends when someone's like 15, 16, and that you only
okay.
have to go up to age 15, 16, then you can get a job and be done. That would be like their regular schooling. And then if you want to go to what's called gymnasium, usually you get out when you're like 19. You'd be there from like, 16 to 19, that kind of thing. And that's like what you would do if probably you want to either specialize in something like a creative school, or, something
Mm,
focused on biology or pre-med to like do before you go to college, before you go to
yeah.
university or something. But a lot of people just leave, before gymnasium and go to trade school, learn a trade and get a job. And that's like totally, is like totally great and fine. And everybody has a good job, and like people can live off of the jobs that are, working class jobs. And
Yeah.
everybody gets 5 weeks vacation, no matter what kind of job you have. So it's like people can actually like live a life and like have a house and have a family. I guess like in the olden days, people used to
Yeah.
like be able to have a high school degree and get a job and still live. It's still kind of like that bit here, and like, and there's no job that
Mm,
it's not like looked down upon if you like don't have university education. It's like everybody's job is important for society, period. So like
yeah.
it's, that's that.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
It's nice.
Yeah. And it kind of it testifies to, maybe where that particular society and government, their relation with the overall international market and how they position themselves to be able to create an environment like that. So, if you contrast that with, um, with maybe with the States and all of the different things happening there, but even almost to have that conversation, you'd have to also talk about which level of government here in the States has the power to, legislate certain things. Um, so you mean, you're from Florida, so I know that you've heard about some of the different educational changes that have been happening there
Yeah.
with regard to, minorities and certain things being put into textbooks and taken out of textbooks. So, there's that kind of thing. There's the different, I mean, we can go back to healthcare. We can talk about the shortages, the various shortages that are happening in healthcare. So we'll just real quick talk about nursing. So sometimes people will say that there's a healthcare shortage in nurses. And it took me a little bit of digging to really understand what that meant. But that does not necessarily mean that there's not enough nurses trying to get into and matriculating from nursing school. What that means is that they're not staying at the bedside once they graduate. So they may finish school, go to a large hospital system, work maybe 1 or 2 years at the bedside, getting that experience, and then moving on to something else. Maybe they move on to their nurse practitioner degree, or just an entirely different role altogether, maybe informatics, or something of the like. And so what that means for the large hospital system is that, well, number one, you have more patients per nurse at that particular facility. And you
Right,
just
which
have to
just adds to the
stretch
problem. Yeah,
it.
because
So
then
you
they're
have to,
not going to want to stay. They're not getting paid enough and they're getting overworked.
yeah. So, yeah. So that's sort of really what that meant. Decoding what that meant really opened up my eyes for me. And now that, I'm seeing that on a regular basis, the effects of that um, has also been very, very eye-opening. But, you know, just to think about all of those things in contrast, the structure of an American education with the Swedish education, they're very different. And so in thinking about that, you have to really think about what it means. What is your government doing? How are they advocating for education? Um, what is their relationship to other countries in terms of having international students come over, train, and go elsewhere? Um, what are the roles of American students? Are they also doing the same thing? Are they going overseas, training and coming back? Perceptions of education, all these different things that you might not consider, on the first go around, but they're all important questions because this is how you become an informed citizen. And through my leadership activities and engaging with some of the people that I have been over the past 6 months, these are some of the questions that I'm really starting to ask myself because they do matter. They do make differences, and you can help create certain linkages and alliances when you are advocating for certain kinds of change, by knowing some of these things and being able to interact with those under those modalities. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to be a more informed, a more active citizen as a result of what I'm doing now and the information that I've learned just over the past year that I was not necessarily aware of before, or may have been weakly aware of, um, but also seeing the impact, the real impact that can come from being a part of these activities.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to see where your path continues to lead you. And I also want to make sure
100%.
we talk about these other books you've been in this book about.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. So I was also involved in another project whose official title is The Official Report on the Intransitionalist Chronotypologies of Kenji Seratori, Appendix 8.2.3. So uh, Andrew, I'm sorry for butchering his last name, I'm going to say Wino, um, invited me to participate in this particular project. And it's a very unique multimedia sort of collective project that uses, I believe, some AI generated text and a lot of unique sort of diverse contributions to construct this book that read cover to cover. You can read cover to cover, and almost seems like it's something that somebody would write, but I think the technical genre maybe is called glitch writing. I'm not totally sure. Don't quote me on that, but um, it's just a very unique project. And when I learned about uh how it was constructed, what the contributors' involvement would be, um, I had to say yes, even amid everything that I had going on. So you can find it at timereleasedsound.bandcamp.com. Now, there were several different versions of this put out, and I believe the deluxe version is all gone, but you can still get the standard version, and you can also purchase the soundtrack that comes with the book as a standalone item. But it's a very very wacky book. So even in reading some of the sentences, it would just sort of like it'd be like, huh, because it just sounds so artificial, but then at a different moment it can sound very very sensible and cohesive. So
I
the
love
set
that.
the sensibility of the book is can be very challenging, but also very engaging at the same time. So if you do have time and the wherewithal, definitely go check that out.
Wonderful. And I'll link to everything in the liner notes accompanying this episode. And then there's another book that you're involved in.
Yes, this is called an anthology of Blackness, the state of Black design. Now, this particular project uh, is in is an effect and the product of somebody that I went to school with. So his name is Omari Souza, and he has a joint partner that he works with this on this project, and her name is Teresa Moses. So he's a professor, and I believe uh, University of Northern Texas, I believe. Um, and so he has a project that he runs called the State of Black Design, which is where different students in the design industry and in the arts industry, they come virtually to this event. He's been doing it the past couple of years. And out of this event, these students have been able to get hired at different places. So,
Nice.
they have panelists and different panelists speak about their work. And it's just a learning event for all of these individuals who are engaged in this particular field. And so this project was an extension of that. So some of those people who have been on those panels and part of that conference are in this book. And he asked me if I wanted to make a contribution. And so I did. And basically my contribution focuses on the official title is The Anthology of Black Design. And so I kind of go into my conception of, it's a very short piece, my conception of what it means, almost literally for what it means to be Black in the design field and the interrelation conceptually between those two ideas. And so I'm not going to spoil anything else, but
They have to get the
even just
book.
even just beyond um this being the product of those in the design field, it still contributes to the greater conversation of what it means to be inclusive, all things diversity, equity, and inclusion, those conversations. And so since this has come out, we've been trying to get the book into different spaces, different conversations to keep that conversation going. We had a book release event a couple months ago, and that was fantastic. Omari got interviewed by a local architecture firm individual, and so that was very cool. Yeah, so it's been a weird mix of what it means to sort of be in a press event. That's the closest that I would say that I've gotten to like that kind of release or something that of that magnitude. And so moving forward, we're still trying to get the conversation of that book into different spaces. And we're just trying to keep that conversation going. But this is a very, very powerful book, very energetic voices. You can find it on a number of different places. So we'll tag that in the credits. But yeah, so get it. Just get it and read it.
Absolutely. And then coming up soon, first of all, you contributed to the new Rendering Unconscious volume, which is coming out, which the first Rendering Unconscious volume came out in 2019, but it wasn't on Amazon or anything. It was only available through Carl's publishing site, and now it's basically sold out. We keep finding in like the storage area of the barn like a couple of copies here and there, but we've been saying it's sold out. So it's basically sold out, but I think we found about 5 more. But
Oh
anyway,
wow.
yeah, it's
Oh
just like
wow.
they'll just keep popping up, I guess, but they're pretty much gone. So we're making a new one. And when I decided to make the new one, it has all the old material plus additional material. So you contributed some additional material, but now it's so big because I got so many new contributions that it's
Oh
literally like this
wow.
giant. So I told Carl, like, okay, we cannot print a book this giant. So like we're gonna cut it in half and make it 2 volumes.
Oh my
So
God.
that's what we're working on now because we had it already, and I was like, this book is just like too big. We can't like put out like a 500-page book.
Oh
Like
my
this is
God.
insane. So we're gonna
Wow.
cut it in half, and I'm gonna write like a new introduction so like that both volumes have new material.
Mhm.
And not a lot of people have the old one anyway, so it'll be new to most people. So that'll come out early 2024. And then
Okay.
the Interlocutor is coming out, which I'm so excited about.
Yes, yes. So that's been a long time coming. So in order to really, adequately discuss that book, we're short on time right now. But that what that book is and what it represents is a product of, again, my cessation from the arts and beginning uh, my conversation with philosophy and psychoanalysis and that kind of thinking process. And because I was a non-academic, at that time, and where I was in life was very, very different, I had to I had to learn how to write, and I had to learn how to think in an adjacent space to others who were doing that kind of work, either both professionally or paraprofessionally. So the interlocutor will be sort of a mix, a very nice gumbo mix of all the different thought processes that I was having that led to where I am now. So, um, yeah, a lot
It's
of that
so
will be interesting.
good.
Yeah, a lot of that
I
will be
just
interesting.
reread it recently for before I had it on Carl's desk, and it's so good. I'm like, I love this. I'm so glad that it's coming out.
Yeah, yeah, critical thinking, man. I mean, it's so important, and you have to, in order to engage things properly, you have to sit down and really sit with things, and you have to actively think about it in a way that is engaging. Because, and I'm sorry to to keep harping on it, but the facilities and the opportunities that we have to just sort of lay back and let technology do things for us is very seductive right now. I mean, we've come a long way from the personal computer where you had to use AOL dial-up to get online to now apps where all of the thinking has been sucked out of the device, and all you have to do is just make a series of clicks and you get basically the same product. And so, we're in a space whereas in the 1950s, folks were on the bus, reading newspapers. Now everybody's has a phone in their hand, and you know, a lot of the content that folks are looking at, specifically the youth, is just endless scrolling of folks doing, random things and things that don't necessarily make sense. I mean, there is some educational stuff out there, and certain institutions are trying to, tap into that modality. But the vast majority of it is, people watching other people do crazy and silly things. So not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, we do need some form of escape from daily life. But I think when it's in excess and starts to distract from what your path needs to be, then there's an issue there.
Yeah, I think the problem is it's making people passive because it's like for like I grew up as an only child, right? So like I didn't have an iPad or anything clearly, but like I
Yeah.
had to think of ways to entertain myself. Like I'm gonna read or I'm gonna play or I'm gonna like do something in the yard, but you had to constantly like invent things to do. And now we don't
Mhm.
have to do that at all. Like we don't have
Yeah.
to come up with anything to do. We just open our phone and just consume whatever is presented to us, and like we might get the algorithms like it's also strange to see like how different everyone's like computer viewing is like based on who they are. So like you
Yeah.
look on someone else's computer, it's like they live in a different world, you know. It's like
Yeah.
what world is this? You know?
Yes,
It's like they're
absolutely.
so specialized with like each person's interest. There's like we're
Hmm.
all living in our own kind of like weird universe, and like in some ways that can be fun, but in other ways that can be really weird and could go very wrong the more and more these like control system and advertisers and corporations are just like manipulating people.
Yeah. I remember when my mom, started noticing that she would click on one thing and then there would be an ad that would reflect that. And she hit me up. She was like, I don't know if I've been hacked. What's going on? And I had to, explain to her that, the targeted advertisements was, a thing now, and that's what's happening. So
It's off the
yeah.
charts now too, since Meta started this thing where they're not where you have to either pay to not have ads or they'll give you ads. Like the ads are like, I mean, they're like there's way more ads that I'm being shown than like content of people that I know. And it's
Yeah.
just like, and they're like, okay, you're a woman this age, like you must have these insecurities. And they keep like giving me ads for like, do face yoga or like give yourself a home facelift or something. And it started working on me recently. I'm like, is my face sagging? And I'm like,
Oh
ah, it's
no.
the ads, you know?
Oh
I'm like,
no.
is there something wrong with me? Do I need that device? You know? And I'm like, oh
Oh my
shit,
God.
get off, get off.
Yes,
But I
yes.
can imagine if I'm like aware and I know that it's doing that and it still like affects you after it like badgers you enough, then like imagine like if you're a young person so impressionable and like growing up with this, it must be like really
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. And that in itself is a whole conversation. I did end up writing a paper on um some of this, body self-esteem issues, body positivity type of things. And there's real effects that are happening out there from constantly being reflected, all these different types of images for both, for all individuals. And it's not good. It's not good.
It's not good. And now I unfortunately have to wrap up because I have to work.
Yes.
But I love you and I'm so glad
Love
we
you
got to
too.
catch up.
Yes, we will definitely do it again sooner rather than later. Yes.
Okay. I know you're so busy though, so just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing amazing.
That's right. I'm trying to build holes in the schedule so that I can so I can be functional in the real world. So yeah, it's gonna happen. We'll do a part two for sure.
Okay.
All right. I'll see you soon.
Bye.